Guys, we have exciting news. Bitcoin might just be sold out in 9 months. What am I talking about? We're talking about the ETFs and the actual supply of Bitcoin that's available out there. So, this week alone, the Bitcoin ETFs had a net inflow. They gobbled up about 30,000 Bitcoin. Now, that's a lot of Bitcoin because each day we only mine 900 Bitcoin. And after the halving, it's only going to be 450 Bitcoin. So where does the rest of that 30,000 Bitcoin have to come from? It has to come from the supply. So exchanges in the US and miners in the US hold about 1.5 million Bitcoin in reserve. And not all of that is actually available for sale. Although with high enough price, they might just be available. But the key there is they have to be high enough price, and 70,000 isn't gonna do it, folks. I'm not exactly sure how much is available for sale. The stuff on exchanges, I don't think that all that's for sale either, because a lot of that does actually belong to the clients. But just counting all that together, 1.5 million coins. So 30,000 Bitcoins a week, 1.5 million, that's 50 weeks. That's less than 1 year of supply. And analysts are expecting the uptick to actually become harder in the months to come. Why is that? It's because wirehouses, corporations, like private fund consultants, they're all looking to come into the Bitcoin ETF in Q2, perhaps Q3 and Q4 as well. So the demand for Bitcoin may really rise rather than fall as we get further and further away from the ETF launch date. It sounds crazy, but the first 2 months may not be the best months for the Bitcoin ETF. Although we have to remember, like Bitcoin ETF has set huge records in terms of how much ETFs are adopted. It's really, really crazy to think about it that way because, some people were saying not that many people are going to be interested in the Bitcoin ETF, but we didn't really consider the 6 or 7 years worth of pent up demand. And the thing is, not all that 1.5 million is for sale, especially not at current prices. So, in maybe 6 months, 7, 8 months, most of that supply will be gone looking at depletion rates from right now. And, because most of that might actually be gone looking at current depletion rates, prices are definitely going to be starting to be pushed up because the OTC at that point will substantially be dried up from what they are now. As you get to 1 million Bitcoin reserve, 500,000 Bitcoin reserve, people are going to be watching. They're going to be like, oh man, it's getting bad. It's getting really, really bad. We're getting really close to running out on zero. And a lot of those older wallets are planning to keep Bitcoin for a long time. Plus, let's not forget, Michael Saylor and co. aren't really going to sell anytime soon or sell a substantial amount of their Bitcoin anytime soon. Satoshi's wallet may just be lost at this point. So considering all that together, the amount of available Bitcoin is going to go towards zero as this year goes on. And according to many analysts, it's going to almost hit that zero spot way before the end of this year. Now, I don't really know if that's true or not. I think they might be over projecting it, but at the least, as that supply dries up, people are going to be fighting for the last scraps. That I can believe. And that's why we have underestimated the height of this Bitcoin bull run. So the thing is, you might want some Bitcoin in your portfolio. If you don't have any crypto at all, you definitely want some crypto in your portfolio. And you might want to keep some Bitcoin in your portfolio too, because not all that money is going to flow out into altcoins. Obviously, the stuff that's actually buying the ETF is not going to flow out into altcoins. Why? Because ETF buyers are not the same as altcoin buyers. They're not the retail that were last time. They're the ones that want more institutional protection. So some of that money is not going to filter out from the ETFs. I think the retail investors will buy a lot of the altcoins, but Bitcoin is going to do very, very well this bull run as well, and Ethereum if it can get the ETF. But it does not seem like Ethereum is actually going to get an ETF to pass this year, nor is any other altcoin at this point. So Bitcoin might be sold out before the end of this year, at least the easy Bitcoin that's readily in supply. And you might have to go for the Bitcoin that's not readily in supply, meaning that if you don't get it now, you might have to buy more expensive Bitcoins. So that's what's going on right now, and that's what's gotten me very, very excited about this market. Because if that's true, we could go to 150, 200, 250. Who knows how high? Do I think we're going to hit the $1 million that Kathy Woods thinks we're going to hit? Nah, I don't think so. But, a lot of the stuff concerning 200K plus Bitcoin is definitely in the cards if this theory holds true. But let's remember, there are a lot of dormant accounts out there that could actually become active if we hit like 150K, 170K, 180K. So I would keep my breath held, but it does look like we're in for a supply shortage in terms of Bitcoins available right now. And that's very, very exciting going into this year. So get into that market now if you haven't gotten into it. And other big news, big banks are still testing out that Canton network. And that is a cross-border blockchain platform that many global banks have been testing since May of last year. There's 155 total participants from 45 major organizations and have settled real-world assets across 22 blockchains. But it's basically just using this network that's actually been built by Goldman Sachs. And it's not any of the known networks. It's like a private network that's been built by Goldman Sachs. It's a priority network, which means I believe it is private. And they say it's similar to Ethereum, Solana, etc., but it's not any of those networks that we actually use. They basically used stable coins and some other assets, and they did tokenize assets such as registry, digital cash, repo, securities, lending, and margin management on the Canton network. So for those of you getting excited about tokenizations on your blockchains, they may not actually be doing tokenizations on like public chains at all. It might just be all on private chains or mostly on private chains. That might make a lot of you unhappy, but that's kind of the way it is. It's kind of the way I expected it to be. I expected like big banks and big organizations to do most things with stable coins on their own private blockchain. So maybe this particular, segment of utility and usability won't really be available to us crypto investors because it's not going to be on like Ethereum or Solana or XRP or Cardano. They're going to have their own blockchain that they built from scratch. Kind of like Mbridge, which is not Ethereum. It's actually just a chain, a private chain that's built on Solidity. It's the same programming language as Ethereum, but it's not Ethereum itself, and it will not be using ETH at any point along the line. Yes, it is EVM compatible, but it's an entirely different chain on its own. So a lot of this stuff is going to be managed by private chains. It will not come on to public chains. So you might need to recalculate your utility values and take a lot of the utility value of like asset tokenization out because it does look like it is going to be on private chains, unfortunately. But that's just something to kind of like reset your investment angle and see like what's actually happening in the industry right now, rather than be kind of like delusional about everything being on your chain or another chain, because a lot of it just isn't going to be available to us. The banks are going to handle it on private chains. And Craig Wright might have actually just committed perjury. I mean, I'm saying might have actually because I'm pretty sure he did, but he might actually be able to get away with it. So COPA is basically asking UK prosecutors to consider pursuing Wright for perjury over his defense of forgery allegations. And there have been many, many forgeries that Craig Wright has done in the COPA case. He's trying to pass them out onto other people. He's like, I didn't forge them, but you submitted the forgeries. He's like, I didn't know they were forgeries. Of course, that's all BS, and I'm pretty sure the jury does not actually believe him. The cross-examination sections have been a nightmare for Craig Wright because they've basically proven that he's lied over and over again, both in his depositions and in the so-called evidence that he submitted. So in its closing arguments, COPA accused Wright of committing perjury in addition to committing forgeries. Now, we've already kind of proven he's committed the forgery, so I think he's basically lost the case at this point. Because, if you submit forged information, the jury is not going to look kindly on that. But he actually might be in legal trouble for himself. So like Council for Crypto Open Patent Alliance, COPA, made up of Twitter founder Jack Dorsey's block and crypto firms like Coinbase and Kraken began closing arguments on Tuesday by saying the evidence shared during the trial shows beyond doubt that Wright isn't Satoshi. Obviously, having forged documents will convince the jury that he is definitely not Satoshi. He is also accused by Copa and a group of blockchain developers of committing forgeries in his attempts to prove he was Satoshi on Tuesday. Copa accused Wright of being a dishonest witness and attempting to very serious fraud while testifying in court. And he's like, it's my associates that committed the fraud. But I don't think anyone really believes that. So they hope that this trial will prove once and for all Wright isn't Satoshi and offer relief to all those people that he's actually been suing. So, and they've actually asked the files to be referred to UK prosecutors for consideration of prosecution for the offenses of perjury and perverting the course of justice, which I 100% totally agree with. Because if you make up evidence and submit it to court, you should have to pay the price. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.